Right after the checkered flag dropped at Watkins Glen International, something happened on pit road that completely shifted the conversation away from the race winner and toward two drivers who were about to become the biggest story in NASCAR. Bubba Wallace walked straight toward Christopher Bell, and what followed was one of the most talked-about confrontations the Cup Series garage has seen in recent memory. Fox cameras were rolling the entire time, and from the booth, Kevin Harvick looked at the footage and said exactly what millions of viewers at home were thinking. "I don't think we're good right here." This was not a quick exchange of words that faded into the background. This was an animated, heated, two-round confrontation on an active pit road, with crew members standing nearby, NASCAR officials watching closely, and the entire garage paying attention. And the reason it matters, so much goes well beyond one emotional moment after a tough race. Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell are both Toyota drivers. They are connected through a team alliance between 23XI Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing. These are not two strangers from opposite ends of the garage. They share resources, share manufacturers, and entering Watkins Glen, they were separated by just 2 points in the Cup Series standing, Wallace sitting 10th, Bell at 11th. The stakes surrounding this confrontation could not have been higher, and understanding why it happened requires going back to everything that unfolded during the race itself. Bubba Wallace drives the number 23 Toyota Camry for 23XI Racing, the team co-owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. His path to this point in NASCAR history has never been ordinary. He is a graduate of the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program, and in 2013, he became the first African-American in 50 years to win in one of NASCAR's 3 national series when he took the Truck Series victory. That was the first of 6 NASCAR Truck Series wins for Wallace. In 2018, he became the first African-American to drive full-time at the Cup Series level. And then in 2021, he became the first black driver to win a Cup Series race since Hall of Famer Wendell Scott at Speedway Park on December 1st, 1963. His presence in the sport has carried significance far beyond the racetrack. Christopher Bell drives the number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, one of the most decorated organizations in NASCAR history. Bell carries a reputation inside the garage as one of the calmer, more composed drivers in the Cup Series. He is not someone fans associate with confrontations or drama. That reputation is a big part of why this moment at Watkins Glen caught so many people off guard. Seeing Bell pulled into a heated post-race confrontation felt completely out of character, and that contrast made the footage even more striking when it surfaced on social media. The 2.45-mile road course at Watkins Glen International was the setting for a 100-lap Cup Series race that, on the surface, looked fairly straightforward. Shane Van Gisbergen of Trackhouse Racing started from pole and dominated large portions of the event, eventually taking the win. After the race, Van Gisbergen described the day by saying, "We weren't very good in practice, and then qualifying was amazing, and then today, what a race car. And then, crew chief Steven Doran made great calls. I wasn't sure how it was going to work, and then to run them down like that, it's very, very special to do 2 in a row." For Bubba Wallace, the day told an entirely different story. He managed to score a stage point early in the race, which gave the 23 team something to hold on to. But the race unraveled in the final stage in the worst possible. With approximately 14 to 15 laps remaining, John Hunter Nemechek was running on fresher tires and pushing aggressively through traffic. Coming into turn 1, Nemechek drove deep into the corner, tagged Wallace's right rear, spinning him around and ending any chance of a competitive finish. Wallace got back on the radio and said exactly what he was feeling. Typical F***SH**. He rejoined the race and crawled home to a 29th place finish. Bell finished 21st. Also a disappointing result, but nowhere near the damage Wallace observed. The thing about the Nemechek incident is that it did not happen because Wallace was slow or out of position. He was doing exactly what his team needed him to do, saving fuel and tires in the closing laps to protect his finishing position. Nemechek, on the other hand, was on a fresher set of tires and had the luxury of pushing harder. Whether he should have waited for a cleaner opportunity is a debate that fans and analysts started having immediately after the contest. But the damage was already done. Wallace paid the price, and his already challenging season took another hit at exactly the wrong time. The confrontation between Wallace and Bell did not happen in a vacuum. There was a specific moment during the race that likely planted the seed for what exploded on pit road afterward. And most viewers at home never saw the full picture because the Fox broadcast did not capture the complete sequence. With approximately 8 laps remaining, Wallace was called to pit road. He was navigating through the Esse's Pass Turn 1 with Bell and Todd Gilliland right on his bumper. Coming out of the carousel, Bell got a run on Wallace's right side. The critical issue is that Bell's team did not inform him that the number 23 car was pitting until Bell was already running alongside Wallace. By that point, the situation had already become complicated. Wallace could not simply cut across Bell's nose because Cody was limping around that section of the track after his own incident. So Wallace was forced to slow down and let Bell, Gilliland, and Riley Herbst pass just so he could safely make his pit entry. Reporter Steven Taranto broke down the moment in detail after reviewing onboard footage. Okay, here's what I think Bubba Wallace might have been upset with Christopher Bell over. This was coming 8 to go. Bubba was called to pit road in the Esse's Pass Turn 1 with Bell and Todd Gilliland on his bumper. But coming out of the carousel, Bell got a run to Bubba's right side, and the 20 team didn't inform him that the 23 was pitting until Bell was alongside him. It put Bubba in a tough spot getting to pit road, as he couldn't just try to cut across Bell's nose. Cody was there and limping around, and he had to slow down to let Bell, Gilliland, and Riley Herbst pass just so he could make pit entry. Taranto also noted, I didn't hear Bubba say any cross word towards Bell over his radio, so it's hard to know definitively. So while Wallace was not visibly angry at Bell in the moment, the situation clearly registered. He was already carrying the frustration of the Nemechek spin, and now his pit entry had been compromised through what was, at minimum, a communication failure between the Allied team. There were several other moments from that race that television viewers never fully saw. Carson Hocevar got tangled with teammate Daniel Suarez just 14 laps into the race, losing 3 positions in the process, and radioed to his team, I'm never letting Daniel go again. He can go F* himself. He doesn't have to run into me. Never letting him go. Don't even argue it. Cody were slammed hard into the tire barrier with 10 laps to go in what many observers felt should have drawn a caution flag. Josh Berry spun off the nose of Cole Custer with 10 laps remaining and then made contact with Hocevar on the final lap, backing into the tire pack and dropping to 32nd in the final running order. Austin Dillon and Ty Gibbs exchanged contact at the bus stop with 5 laps left in Stage 2, and Dillon tried to smooth things over, saying over the radio, let him know I didn't mean to do that. And Kyle Busch almost ran out of fuel before the checkered flag. His number 8 Chevrolet stumbling through the final 2 corners on fumes as he tried to chase down Chase Briscoe for 4th. All of this was happening around Wallace during one of the most chaotic final stretches the race had seen, and the Fox broadcast only captured pieces of it. When the race ended and drivers began climbing out of their cars, Bubba Wallace did not head toward the mediator. He walked directly to Christopher Bell on pit road. Fox Sports cameras were already positioned in the area for post-race interviews, and they caught the exchange as it unfolded live. Wallace was animated. He was talking with his hands, leaning in, making his point clearly and forcefully. Bell, in his typical fashion, stood there with a calm demeanor that NASCAR fans know well. He did not match Wallace's energy in the early portion of the confrontation, which made the visual contrast even more striking. The tension felt almost more uncomfortable because of Bell's composure rather than less. Wallace appeared to make his case, reached what looked like a natural stopping point, and started to walk away. Then something Bell said pulled him straight back into conversation for a second, equally heated exchange. Crew members were standing nearby. NASCAR officials were watching the entire thing. In the garage, which had been focused on the winner's celebration and post-race debriefs, suddenly had a new focal point. The Fox broadcast team did not miss it. Kevin Harvick watched the footage from the booth and said plainly, I don't think we're good right here. That line, delivered calmly and matter-of-factly, immediately circulated across social media. After the race, Wallace's spotter Freddie Kraft took to social media to address the situation and stated that his driver was not upset with Bell. But Kraft did not explain what the conversation was actually about, which meant the denial raised as many questions as neither driver gave reporters a detailed explanation when approached after the race. Wallace briefly downplayed the situation while leaving the infield. Bell avoided providing any specifics to the media. That silence only made the story bigger, because without a clear explanation from either driver, NASCAR fans immediately began dissecting every second available. Given the lack of public explanation from either driver, multiple theories have circulated about what actually triggered the post-race confrontation. The most widely discussed and best-supported explanation connects directly to the pit road miscommunication with 8 laps to go. The sequence where Bell's team failed to communicate that the number 23 was pitting until Bell was already alongside Wallace forced Wallace into a difficult and frustrating situation, having to slow down and yield to multiple cars just to make a pit entry, while already carrying frustration from the Nemechek spin, was a compounding moment of aggravation. A second theory suggests that something happened earlier in the race between the two drivers that television cameras did not fully capture. Bell also had a frustrating moment during a mid-race caution period. During that caution, Bell appeared to be pitting with a large group of cars, but his team changed strategy at the last second. By the time he rejoined the field, Wallace had passed him, and NASCAR officials confirmed that the number 23 was now running ahead of Bell. The JGR team protested the ruling, but got nowhere. Whether this earlier moment contributed to any lingering tension between the two drivers going into the final laps is unclear, but it represents another touchpoint in what was a complicated afternoon between. A third possibility is that Wallace's frustration after the Nemechek incident was building throughout the final stage, and that Bell simply became the nearest available outlet for that frustration after the checkered flag. Whatever Bell said that caused Wallace to return for a second exchange remains unknown, and without audio, that mystery has kept the story alive across NASCAR medias. NASCAR does not treat pit road confrontations casually, and the history here matters. In 2022 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Bubba Wallace received a one-race suspension after confronting Kyle Larson following an on-track incident. That decision from NASCAR established clearly that the sanctioning body views post-race altercations on pit road as serious situations, partly because of the environment itself. Pittsburgh Road after a race is a crowded, active space. Crew members are moving around equipment, photographers are working, officials are conducting their duties, and other drivers are navigating the. Any physical escalation in that environment carries a different level of risk than an argument inside the garage. NASCAR officials were present and observing the Wallace-Bell exchange as it happened. The confrontation was broadcast nationally on Fox Sports, which means there is no ambiguity about the fact that it occurred. The 2022 Las Vegas precedent is now part of the backdrop to this story, and NASCAR has a track record of being willing to act when it believes the line has been crossed, especially in crowded pit road environments where safety considerations are elevated. The next race on the schedule is the NASCAR All-Star Race at Dover Motor Speedway, and both Wallace and Bell will be competing. 2311 Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing are allied organizations. These two teams work closely together at the manufacturer level, and any sustained tension between drivers from those organizations creates complications that extend beyond just the two individuals involved. Most analysts following the story believe the confrontation is unlikely to carry long-term consequences given the alliance structure and the casual nature of the All-Star Race week. But the moment is documented, the footage exists, and the questions about what Bell said to bring Wallace back for that second exchange have not been answered publicly. What happened between Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell at Watkins Glen is really a reflection of where the Cup Series is right now as the regular season tightens. Playoff pressure is building every week. The points cutoff is getting closer, and inside the garage, drivers and teams are feeling the weight of every single finishing position. For Wallace, this season has carried a particular kind of frustration. His teammate Tyler Reddick has made multiple trips to victory lane, and the 23 team has watched that success from a distance while working through its own inconsistent. Another 29th place finish at Watkins Glen, caused by contact that arguably should not have happened, is exactly the kind of result that compounds over time and raises the pressure level inside the org. For Bell, the season has also included serious setbacks. He was reportedly wrecked from the lead at Texas Motor Speedway through no fault of his own, losing a race that was very much within reach. 2 points separate these drivers and the two drivers from the same manufacturer alliance, both carrying frustration from difficult stretches of their respective season, ended up having their worst day of the week collide on pit road in front of a national television audience. Wallace and Bell exchanged words. Kraft said his driver was not upset with Bell, and yet the footage tells a different story about the heat. NASCAR has a clear precedent for how it handles these situations. The All-Star Race at Dover is next. And the question of what Christopher Bell said that caused Bubba Wallace to turn back around for that second confrontation, that question is still unanswered.